Hi, my name is Ivan Dilda, and the leader that I chose is Mr. Keith Kwan. So the way that I met him was actually completely out of chance. I was just talking story with one of my friends, and the topic of him being a Boy Scout actually came up. So when we were talking about that, a bell actually rang. I was like, I wonder if I'd be able to do my project on one of his Scoutmasters. So I asked him, and luckily he said, sure, you can try, he's really nice, and gave me all his contact information. So then I contacted him and it worked out. So that's how it all started. Mr. Kwan is a Scoutmaster for Troop 329 in the Ko'olau District. He was born in Honolulu and was raised in Kaneohe and attended Kapunahawa Elementary School, King Intermediate School, and graduated from Castle High School in 1986. He then enlisted into the Army Reserve and was assigned to the 100/442nd at Fort Derusi. After various assignments, he rose to the top rank as the Commanding Sergeant Major of the 4960th Multifunctional Training Brigade, where he retired after 30 years of service. He then graduated from the Honolulu Community College with an associate's degree in commercial arts and science in 1991 and worked as a graphic designer for 18 years. Currently, he's employed in the Infantry Immersion Training Scenario Designer at Marine Corps Training Area Bellows in Waimanalo. He is married to his wife Candice and has two children named Christopher, who is 17, and Casey, who is 14.
On my honor, I will do my best
On my honor, I will do my best
to do my duty to God and my country,
to do my duty to God and my country,
and to obey the Scout Law,
and to obey the Scout Law,
to help other people at all times,
to help other people at all times,
to keep myself physically strong,
mentally awake,
and morally straight.
and morally straight.
Scouting is more important than ever for kids today.
It's a chance to develop leadership and learning something about life.
it builds character. It builds confidence.
Scout is trustworthy.
that what you say is what you do.
Loyal and helpful.
You're going to be there when the chips are down for the people who need you most.
A scout is friendly, courteous,
Kind. Doing a good turn daily.
A scout is obedient, cheerful,
kids having fun.
Thrifty. Brave.
Clean and reverent.
To respect other people's religion. To respect their faith.
Those are all things that the scouting program brings to the table.
you remember it for life.
Boy Scouts of America is one of the largest youth organizations in the United States, with more than 2.4 million youth members and nearly 1 million adult volunteers. Since its founding in 1910 as part of the International Scout Movement, more than 110 million Americans have been at some point members of the Boy Scouts of America. Their goal is to train youth in responsible citizenship, character development, and self-reliance through participation in a wide range of outdoor activities, educational programs, and at older age levels, career-oriented programs in partnership with community organizations. For younger members, the Scout Method is part of the program to instill typical scouting values such as trustworthiness, good citizenship, and outdoor skills through a variety of activities such as camping, aquatics, and hiking. As a Scoutmaster, Mr. Kwan is responsible for working directly with the Scouts to help them create the program for the troop. The Scoutmaster trains boy leaders to run the troop by providing direction, coaching, and support. So basically, Mr. Kwan just oversees the whole operation and makes sure that everything runs smoothly. before doing this project, I only had a very basic understanding of the Boy Scout organization and what it was. I was never actually a Boy Scout, but I do have multiple friends and some family who have been a Boy Scout at some point in their lives. So I basically just thought that it was kind of like a club that you could join, in which you can just have fun with friends and also learn basic survival skills for the outdoors. But now that I've done some actual research and have a better understanding, I realize that it's not only about these things, but to also have an emphasis on building relationships and instilling good characteristics overall, starting at a young age, that these boys will take and mature into adults in the future. In regards to the position of Scoutmaster, I honestly knew so little about Boy Scouts that I had no idea what the responsibilities were for one, let alone what a Scoutmaster even was. This analysis was a very educational experience for me to not only learn about the leadership that goes behind being a Scoutmaster, but also just to learn what a Scoutmaster is in general. For the leadership observation, I went to a Scout meeting that was held in the Kapuna Hala Elementary School cafeteria. This is where I first met Mr. Kwan and the troop in person, and this is where I got to see how everything was run. The group had a camping trip the weekend before this meeting, so the purpose was to do inventory on all the supplies to make sure everything is accounted for, along with planning for the next trip and activity. This is a picture showing an example of the Boy Scouts taking inventory of their camping supplies. They each had the responsibility to take their tent home, clean it, and bring it back all in one piece. At the meeting, each group assembled their tents for inspection by the Scout leaders. Not only does this teach the Scouts how to set up a tent for camping, but there is a much deeper lesson here. The Scouts are taught responsibility in taking care of something that they need. Instead of just being given a tent to use for camping, they're given ownership of it and are taught about all the responsibility that comes with owning something, such as them taking care of it, as in cleaning it and setting it up. These are pictures of Mr. Kwan meeting with his fellow Scout leaders, along with having individual meetings with the Boy Scouts. With the Scout leaders, Mr. Kwan had a more democratic approach and encouraged open discussion. If I did not know Mr. Kwan was a Scoutmaster prior to seeing this meeting, I would have just assumed he was one of the fellow Scout leaders. Although I did not hear specifically what they were talking about, I could tell that Mr. Kwan was not the only one leading the discussion. However, when he met with the Boy Scouts individually, I saw more of an authoritative side to Mr. Kwan. He was helping the Scouts with each of their Boy Scout journeys and was giving them advice on what they should do. He wasn't controlling them by telling them that they need to do it this way, but he was just giving them his opinion based off his expertise and past experiences and giving them the freedom on what to do. From attending the Boy Scout meeting, I got a solid understanding on how the troop is run and its strengths and weaknesses. It looked like Mr. Kwan has established an independent group that needs little guidance from a leader. Since this group has been together for a while, Mr. Kwan has already instilled self-leading characteristics into his Scouts. If I observed this group when they were new, I feel like they probably would have seen more of the relationship and leadership building between him and the Scouts. I feel like this is a very effective way to lead because it turns followers into leaders. Being able to sit back and let the group function on its own shows that your leadership qualities have been successfully passed down to each Scout. A potential weakness that I observed from this laid-back style of leadership would be the potential for distractions. At several points in the meeting, the Scouts got a little rowdy and they got distracted from what they were doing. Thankfully, Mr. Kwan would notice this and would assert his leadership power to settle everyone down. He would raise his 3 fingers like this, which made everyone stop what they were doing and mirror him. This is called the Scout sign, and it represents the 3 parts of the Scout oath: duty to God and country, duty to others, and duty to self. Mr. Kwan taught all of the Scouts the Scout sign, and that whenever these 3 fingers come up, everyone needs to be silent and raise their 3 fingers also. This was a surprisingly effective strategy to prevent the scouts from getting distracted. There weren't many problems that I observed during this observation, but once again, that's probably because this group has been together for a long time and they have already done these types of meetings many times. For the interview, there were many things that stuck out to me and solidified my views on Mr. Kwan's leadership. For example, when I asked Mr. Kwan what characteristics are emphasized as a Boy Scout, he basically told me that decision-making with good moral character is very important. He wants his Boy Scouts to make good decisions based off of what they learned and know. I feel like this definitely is consistent with what I researched for Boy Scouts. It is all about instilling good characteristics to help the Scouts make their own decisions and all be individual leaders. When I asked Mr. Kwan how he would describe his leadership style, he said it was very easygoing. He leads by example and makes sure he is approachable for all of his Scouts. This is very consistent with my personal analysis on his style before even doing this interview. I definitely noticed his laid-back style while still making sure everything is going smoothly. When I asked Mr. Kwan about the values and ethics he tries to instill into his followers, he told me that he basically goes by the book. This means that they follow the Scout Oath, law, motto, and slogan. I thought it was very interesting that there is a large focus on teaching things through the Boy Scout book. But I guess being a Boy Scout is a little like going to school. The last and most important question I asked Mr. Kwan was about what his idea of successful leadership is. To him, leadership is the ability to lead others to work together in accomplishing a task or goal. He focuses more on servant leadership, which means to choose to lead, give more than you receive, and make a difference. A successful leader listens and persuades instead of telling people what to do. He recognizes the challenges and knows what it takes to make his group and each of his members successful. Him being a servant leader describes what being a leader for the Boy Scouts is all about. He strives to put his followers before himself and will do everything in his power to guide them to success. Although I have only observed your leadership style and interactions for a couple of hours, I can still give some constructive criticism. The one weakness that I could think of that would come out of having a lax leadership style is the potential for the Boy Scouts to get distracted. Since they're at such a young age, I know it is hard to balance between letting them be kids versus adults. My suggestion would be maybe to be setting a stronger foundation as to when they can be free and when they need to focus, which will make for a better overall environment. From this leadership analysis project, I not only learned a lot about Mr. Kwan and how he is as a leader, but also about a very important organization, the Boy Scouts of America. I never had too many opportunities to see leaders with such a laid-back but successful leadership style, so it was a very good learning experience for me. And most importantly, I got to make new friendships with Mr. Kwan and the Boy Scout troop that I will always remember. Thank you for a great semester.